don't know if anybody's going to join this. I'm hoping that Zana's about to join. I'm doing my first ever live with her to chat about, I guess, my journey with her and how really she's had such a huge positive impact. Hello everybody that's joining. I need to figure out how to... Oh, I think they're joining now. I'm gonna just... That's got them. Hi, hello. Oh, I'm so happy so many people are joining. It's my first live, so obviously I'm a little bit nervous. I'm not sure if that...
It worked! It worked!
Oh, first hurdle over. Hooray. Oh, I'm very relieved. I was really nervous about that. Technical, not my strong point.
Well, I can't say it's mine either. I have to be honest. I know how to get on these lives. I would have no idea how to do anything else.
I was very nervous that it wasn't going to work. I just started watching the video on how to do it a little bit late. Anyway, it's really good to see you, Zana, and thank you to everybody that's joining. I'm really grateful. Anyway, hope you find this really useful. So this is my first live. I thought I would start by saying I've been working with Zana, I think, since around March. Was it around March time that we started working together? And I went to her I was eating way too much sugar and I was not feeling good. So I went to Zana to try and help improve my diet and also my perimenopausal symptoms. And I think the three first things that I noticed and that Zana pointed out to me as well, where I wasn't eating enough protein. I don't eat red meat, so obviously I struggled with that. But Strong Nutrients have a great vanilla shake that really, really helped me put more protein into my diet, which in turn helped me to feel fuller for longer, which meant I wasn't eating as much sugar. We also moved to an intermittent fasting plan, which basically means I leave 14 to 16 hours between my dinner and my breakfast. Now, I will say this was something I was really skeptical about. I never thought that I would be able to do it at all. But actually, I think because of the work we'd done before on reducing sugar, increasing protein, I actually found it really easy. And it's been so positive for me because I don't have to eat half a pack of biscuits in the morning to get me through to lunch, which has just been great. But the biggest immediate change for me was I've struggled with anxiety my whole life, and I guess since I'd started being a bit more perimenopausal, I'd noticed that was eking more into my everyday life. I was struggling with it on a completely different level to how I was used to. And when I started working with Zana, I guess a whole combination of the things that we were doing really, really improved that. So I'm going to pass over to Zana to say what it was that she did that really improved that, because you'll say it's so much better than me.
I think you're doing a great job. I think I should just leave you to it. You were explaining it beautifully. Yes, so the anxiety bit, that obviously, and I know this will go without saying, but I am going to say it anyway, we're not taking away that things can occur that cause us to feel anxious. So it's not dismissing the psychological aspect of it. It's just looking at what might be happening from a nutrient side of things that could, in this case, be making it unnecessarily worse. For some people, it just wraps it. But for everybody, I find these things can make a big, big difference, because we all know anxiety and stress is less about what's happening and more about how we react to what's happening. That's a bit that counts. In fact, I've had some very stressful clients when nothing was happening that made them stressed. So it's not really about that. We need a little bit. So yes, with you, it was looking at a number of things. I'll sum this up as neatly as I can, and it's covering a number of nutrients, which for anybody listening, you may not need all of this. And hopefully by the time I'm finished, you'll have pinpointed the ones that could be relevant to you. And you may need them all. I mean, you might find they're all relevant, but there might just be one. I tend to always start with the very sort of, dare I say, blanket overview of looking to see what your adrenal glands are doing. Now, I'm not a doctor. We're not doing medical tests here. We're just seeing how you're reacting on a day-to-day basis. Things like sleep, how are they working? Are you sleeping? Are you not? In other words, are you being woken up? And equally, in your case, it was very obvious that the sense of anxiety, that was very clear cut. There was no real question about that. Usually that's a sign that the adrenals are basically, I'm going to say somewhere between being under par, either not working quite as they should, or they're on overdrive, or have been on overdrive for too long. Very, very briefly, the job of the adrenal glands, we all know this, but just to summarize, is to produce multiple things, but amongst the multiple things, hormones called adrenaline and cortisol. Cortisol is that lovely hormone that gets us up out of bed in the morning. It's also a lovely hormone that helps. It's almost like a coffee shot. It's like having a caffeine hit. Its job is to wake us up, and it helps us, and it's supposed to help us in a really stressful situation where we're being attacked. So we can either fight back or we can run. It helps break down our muscle tissue to get access to sugar, and that sugar gives us the stamina to fight or run. Now that's all very well when you are being attacked, so to speak, but not very useful on a normal day to day. It gets you on this sort of heightened kind of almost awareness, but not in a good sense. And so the anxiety can go up. So anything we can do to help reduce cortisol and get the adrenals back in their box, so to speak, is going to be helpful. Top of my list, as you know.
Yes.
And as many who know me know. So apologies for anyone listening who's already heard me before, because I'll be saying this again. Chill pill is the very top of my list on that. Vitamin B5. In strong nutrients, we call it the chill pill. And when I studied nutrition first, we used to call it the happy vitamin, because of the impact it had on mood. It helped sleep. Energy levels tended to go up. But it was really just almost resetting the body a little bit. It seemed to help with those adrenal glands and get them back to where they're supposed to be. So for me, that was a huge, huge factor, and it does have a big impact on mood. It's a lovely, gentle supplement. The main ingredient is literally vitamin B5 or pantothenic acid.
Because that was what I was worried about. What is it? What's it going to do to me? I'm always as an anxious person, I'm always so nervous. I said to Zana, I'm so nervous. Like, should I be taking these? Like, what else could they do? And she was just really clear, these are just supplements. So they are just supplements. All we're doing here is increasing your B5, and this is what it's going to do.
Yes.
And I should say that I was seeing somebody as well to help with my anxiety, and I have seen various people over the years. I think the difference for me was this was very clearly to do with perimenopausal symptoms, because my anxiety had changed. And actually, when I spoke to the other person that I was seeing and told them what I was doing with Zana and the massive difference it had made, he actually said, wow, I'm going to go and have a look at this myself and try and find out more, because I can probably help other clients with, you know, and advise them to help their nutrition as well, with the two things working in combination. And how important that was.
Yeah. It's exactly that. It's working from both angles. Ignoring one angle seems crazy to me, quite frankly. And I really mean ignoring any angle. It's looking at it from all the sides. And the nutrition's such a huge one. So on your case, we looked at it from supplements and nutrition.
Yeah.
So on the supplement side, it was the chill pill was the top of the list. The magnesium is another big one, particularly for perimenopause and menopause. And again, I suspect so many people will have heard this before. But magnesium is involved in so many processes in the body. And it does seem like we need it more rather than less as we move from perimenopause through to menopause and beyond. It helps us absorb our calcium, for one. Calcium, I have a lovely little test I ask clients. And we're talking about anxiety here, so I'm just going to throw this one out. If somebody slams a door and you get that really loud bang, ask yourself, do you jump? Some people are jumpers. Other people would just get irritated that the door banged.
A jumper.
Yeah.
A huge jumper at everything. You asked that question, I was like, yes, that's me.
That's often, that's not exclusively, but it's often a sign that calcium can be a bit low. Calcium makes up the myelin sheath, which coats our nerves. And so keeping an eye on the calcium intake really makes a difference. And magnesium, back to something I was just talking about, is essential to help the body's utilization of that calcium. And if the body's high in calcium, your magnesium can drop, and so on and so forth. They kind of work together in a way. So I'm going to come back to the calcium in a second, but the magnesium, it's also essential for nerves to relax. Calcium helps them contract. So it's got all these little, it also helps the regulation of melatonin, which again is the hormone that helps you sleep. And it's another one that helps also with helping cortisol levels come down. So magnesium will help in numerous ways to help kind of bring the body down a bit, if you like. And then the third, I'm only going to mention two more briefly on this, but the next one I find super interesting, because you mentioned this at the beginning. You said you don't eat much protein and you didn't eat much red meat. Now, for me, the little red flag goes up. You don't have to be a meat eater and you don't have to run out and eat meat, but just to check, this is my other little question that I ask clients. If you get up quickly from sitting to standing or lying down to standing, if you're training and you squat, kind of go down low, come up fast, do you get lightheaded? And that's a sign that iron levels can be low. People say, no, it's my blood pressure. But actually, your iron being low is your blood. It's your hemoglobin we're talking about here, which is actually pretty much the blood itself. And if you don't have enough of it, it's going to be low. And if you're prone, now this is a slight aside here, but if you're prone to panic attacks, well, your iron, your hemoglobin carries your oxygen around your body. So if it gets low and your blood pressure gets low due to this, you're not getting enough oxygen around. Your body acts a bit like you're in an airplane. You get quite sleepy.
Yeah,
you're not going to get
sleepy.
Well, that's really what can happen. And if you don't have enough in there, you could. Now, I'm not saying everyone gets this, so please don't take this that I'm saying everybody gets this. It's not the case. But it can happen with some people that they almost can get panic attacks because you're not getting enough oxygen in.
Yeah,
you're breathing, but it's not drawing into the blood and through the body. So iron was the other one we looked at as well.
It's a biggie for me because I don't eat red meat at all, and I already knew that I was borderline anemic. So as soon as you said it, I knew that was it. And although I don't know if it like causes my panic attacks, which I do or was having, I'm sure it was not helping at all.
Yes.
And my doctor said to me in the past, how are you still like moving and doing things? Your iron is so low.
Yeah,
you need to really improve this.
And you've hit the nail on the head. It's not saying that this is going to cause it, exactly that, but exactly that, it won't be helping. If your adrenals are on an overdrive, you're not getting enough oxygen through your body. There's not enough magnesium in there for the muscles to relax. And equally, your calcium isn't being drawn down and utilized. You will automatically, anybody will find themselves far more anxious. Even if they didn't have a problem in the world, they might find themselves anxious. So they were sort of the nutrient side. And exactly as you also said, we are here talking about nutrients. We're talking about vitamins and minerals, things you find. I suppose the way I look at it, whether it comes to vitamins, minerals, and amino acids, you find them in multiple sources. We're not even talking about herbs here, where you only get one plant that has it. You find these naturally in the diet, but it can be quite difficult to get enough through the diet, and particularly if you're going to avoid, and I say this with a smile, if you're going to avoid the certain foods with it in it, it's going to make it more difficult.
Yes. As I've been told multiple times over the years, but I don't like red meat, so
yeah.
So for me, this was great, and you put me on these hemoglobin tablets.
Yes.
Yeah. Which, if I was obviously a strict vegetarian, which I'm not, I have been in the past, but I'm not. I may not like them because of what they contain. But I think for me, I knew my iron was so low, like the issue, that I needed to take the tablets to resolve that issue rather than worrying about that. And actually, honestly, the difference, I would say the difference in my anxiety, and I remember because Zana's really good, she checks in with you really regularly because you're put on a plan, which obviously can be quite challenging. So the first plan, because I think I'd been eating so much sugar, I did find quite challenging, but Zana checks in with you all the time to see how you're doing and to like help you. But after the first week, I honestly could not believe how much better my anxiety was. It was like a switch. It was unbelievable. And I'm not just saying that, Zana knows. I was shocked. I wasn't expecting it myself. And I'd say, what is it? Like, what's the change? What's the change? And it was like the combination of everything, the supplements, the reduction in sugar, obviously eating a much better diet, and it just, wow, and it stayed as well. And I was saying to Zana yesterday, I'm not as strict with my diet anymore, so I can be like not brilliant, but I've made the big changes, which is the intermittent fasting and the more protein, and I take my supplements obviously, and that's kind of that carries me through. And I know if I eat too much sugar, and I was telling Zana this yesterday as well, me and my family went to the cinema at the weekend, and we did overindulge on the pick and mix, and we all felt pretty gross when we got home. And I said, oh, well, you know, if we have some protein now, that will actually help to balance out the sugar. Because I have to say, knowing I'd eaten that much sugar, I was thinking, oh, I could feel quite anxious here. Anyway, we all had a boiled egg, and it really helped. It helped all of us. But why did it help all of us? I'm suddenly thinking, I don't know why. I know we needed to do it, but I don't know
what did
behind
it do. It's quite funny. I mean, ordinarily I would recommend doing it the other way around, but I'm not going to say it was a bad plan, given that you'd already fallen off the wagon, for want of a better way of describing it. So that's, and actually, just to sum up what you said there, because I love the whole nutritional aspect. Obviously, a core part of what we were doing, the key part really was the nutrition. And again, when you're talking about reducing the sugar and getting the protein in its place, what we did initially, and I'm going to come back to your question about why did that work, what we did initially was get your body off that reliance of the sugar, because that's a roller coaster.
Yeah.
And that will affect mood. And I'm not saying in your case it did this, but with people generally and with clients, I find for others it can affect irritability, it can affect energy levels. Everything can just go up and down if you're on that sugar ride. And the way, we've all heard this before, but the very brief overview, the way sugar works is it goes into the bloodstream. It can't stay there. It's quite frankly, it would be dangerous if it stayed in the bloodstream. So your body releases insulin to get it out. When it does that, the next hormone that runs in afterwards is called ghrelin, which kind of sounds like a gremlin, which is exactly what it is. It's the one that gets you straight running back to the fridge looking for more sugar, and you're on that sort of spiral. So my plan with clients is always to ease them away from that. The initial plan is, as we won't go into the detail of the initial plan, but it was, the overview of that was switching the body into fat burning rather than the dependency on sugar burning. So it was, and this wasn't about weight loss. This was about retraining your body to be able to get energy from fat, to use fat as a fuel. So it was switching more into a higher fat plan, much lower carb plan. And once you get through that, it almost retrains the body, so that then when you go back again, your body now has the flexibility to move over and back from sugars to fat, which is wonderful. And the protein comes in, because protein breaks down into, and again, a lot of people will know this, but it's to actually consider, what are we really talking about here? It breaks down into amino acids, which are the building blocks. And by building blocks, I mean absolutely everything in your body that's technically solid is an amino acid, as an amino acid makes it. So it could be skin, it could be eyelashes, it could be enzymes. Every single part of the body is made of amino acids. The one everyone thinks of as muscle, but it's everything. Hormones even. And the hormones include neurotransmitters to the brain, which goes back to serotonin and dopamine. They're all rely on protein and amino acids. But protein breaks down into amino acids and a little bit of sugars. It's much slower to break down than sugars on their own. So it has a much more stabilizing effect, if you like, on blood sugar levels. You don't get that high or low. Normally I recommend to clients, if they're going to have chocolate, for example, to have the protein first and then have the chocolate on top.
I forgot that.
Yes, don't you worry. You did it the other way around, but it still seemed to have done the trick. It just slows down the sugar hit into the bloodstream.
Yeah.
It's a slower thing to break down, and it'll just stabilize it all. And there's a weird benefit to having, so all the time you will hear, I mean, and myself included, speaking about trying to get insulin levels steady.
Yeah.
High insulin and a thing called insulin resistance, where we release a lot of insulin to deal with just a tiny amount of sugar, can often lead to the belly fat for some people. It can affect mood. It can have so many other effects that really aren't great health-wise. So we're always talking about keeping it steady. That said, insulin is still essential. We need to release a little bit, and that's useful. And one of the benefits of insulin is it can help the body utilize protein properly. So doing what you did there can be really helpful for the body to make use of that egg too.
Yay!
So
Hooray!
it'll go into the muscle faster, and it'll help recover tissue generally faster. So there is a weird benefit to it. But I don't recommend people go out and do pick and mix.
No, don't recommend doing the pick and mix. My kids won't be very happy though. They are big pick and mix fans.
Occasional will do no harm.
Occasional, everything in moderation.
Exactly
as we say.
Yeah.
And I guess I should have said at the top that we can't cover everything in this live. So we thought we would focus on anxiety today, because obviously that's one of the things that's been the most significant change for me. But we can do another live another time about that focuses on the protein or the intermittent fasting. I know it was something before I started with Zana that I had a lot of questions about and couldn't actually ever imagine doing. So hopefully that will be useful for another session.
I'd love to talk about it, and even if I was just to give a little snippet on it now, just a little bit with it. So the thing I mentioned there was training your body a little bit back into what we often call metabolic flexibility, and there's a train of thought, if you like, that we evolved burning fat as a fuel but being able to switch into sugars as a fuel on occasion when we need it. And the way we eat now, and it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure this one out, is very sugar reliant, to the extent that a lot of clients I get by the time I meet them, and they're often in their late 30s, early 40s, mid 40s onwards, their bodies often don't switch into fat burning at all. It's almost like they could starve themselves and the fat doesn't seem to shift if they have weight on. It's like it's just not, it's totally inflexible. And switching it into the flexibility, yes, we will look at that another time, can help fat loss. But in this instance, it seems to also just help the body on a different, to be more stable and a much more even keel.
Yeah.
You almost can think of fat as a lovely, long, steady fuel, kind of that you just burn steadily. So it keeps you very calm and stable. And fat is also essential for hormones. It's essential. And your brain it really needs fat to function. So leaning too high sugar, and especially if you combine that with too low fat, can be a bit of a disaster for mood. And from anxiety to irritability, it doesn't work well, high sugar diets, particularly if they go low fat as well. The fat is essential. And I mentioned earlier that there was another supplement that I didn't go into, and this is the final supplement, which is one called Antarctic Krill oil, EPA-DHA.
Yeah.
They're essential for the brain functioning. Your brain cells need to be, in a way, and I'm exaggerating a little with this, but if you can imagine, almost need to be steeped in it to really function well. And we're not just talking about the cognitive side, which obviously does come into play, but mood too. It makes quite a difference. So a big thing on the nutritional side for the anxiety, not just for the other things we had been talking about, was to get the sugar dependency down, because that's almost like a drug addict. And I don't think
it really was. It was bad. I was very bad with my sugar. And I also meant to say, so although I wasn't doing this really for weight loss, I did notice that I had been putting on weight, probably from that half pack of biscuits that I was eating solidly around 10:30 every day. And what I noticed, so I think whilst I was seeing Zana like very regularly, I think I lost about 4 pounds, which was great. And then that's kind of, since I've carried on generally with the plan, so I wouldn't say I'm as strict, because I'm not, but I've made like some big changes. And I think I've lost 6 pounds overall now. And although I'm quite a slim person, I think all of us know in our frames when we've put on weight and when we don't feel comfortable. And I know that I'm back to how I feel comfortable in myself. And it did take longer than it would have done when I was younger, I guess, because of the perimenopause and everything else. And that's with me exercising as well. This was another shocker to me, was how much, if I'd made the dietary changes I made now, if I'd made those in my 30s, I would have lost it within like a couple of weeks. I used to be able to manage that very quickly. It's not the same when you're in your late 40s. It really isn't.
It shifts. It's not. And it often takes getting into that age for us to realise it's not the same.
Not the same.
And that's why pretty much everything we were doing was about sort of resetting the body. It wasn't about it. It's never about weight loss. It's about getting your body balanced back up and then it does what it does naturally. So what your body did naturally in your 20s and early 30s, we had to get your body acting more like it did then for it then to do the same thing again. And as you know, and just to emphasize this to anyone listening, this was not about cutting back on food at all. If anything, it might have been about increasing.
Well, we did increase. I remember the first breakfast I had, I was a bit like, do I really have to eat all that? I'm not used to eating that much. But it was better things. And like I eat more eggs, I eat more avocado, I actually eat more fruit because I have that with my favorite breakfast is the protein shake. I'm lactose intolerant, so I have it with like an all pro yogurt thing with loads of fruit, and the creatine or the creatine powder, which is great for it's great for when you've been training, isn't it? So I put that in it, and I put a little bit of coconut stuff on top. It's like my favorite. I've had it this morning. I often eat quite late, so I have it like late morning, or I have poached eggs and avocado, which is my other absolute staple.
Yeah, brilliant, brilliant. Yeah, the creatine is a lovely one because the creatine helps protect the muscle. So when you do train, you recover faster. It helps make up that ATP, which are your energy molecules. It's great for stamina, great for endurance. And the bit I love about creatine is the research is now showing that it's very beneficial for older adults. I'm never sure when older adults begins, but apparently I'm sure it's somewhere around our age. Older adults, for memory, particularly for menopausal women, because perimenopause, as estrogen levels fluctuate, apparently our brains rely on estrogen apparently more so when we're younger for functioning, memory, all the rest. And when that begins to fluctuate and change, it can affect, and that apparently is one of the reasons one might get brain fog. Creatine makes up this ATP. It's the main ingredient of it. And ATP, as I said, are those energy molecules. Now, when estrogen levels drop, apparently our brains rely on ATP. It switches. Okay. So our bodies have an automatic mechanism, if you like, to switch gears. So we don't have all the dips. But what happens is if we don't have enough fuel in our frame. So creatine is naturally found in fish or meat. So if somebody's going towards vegetarian or veganism, their creatine can be low. So by the time they hit this period, they may not have enough ATP to carry them through.
Or enough memory to remember where they put things.
That too, yes. That too.
I know that feeling well.
Yeah, well, that's where the creatine comes in. So the research showed that not just in older adults, but in vegetarians and vegans, their memory and recall seems to improve. So that's a lovely random aside. It's brilliant for the training, great for recovery and stamina. Yeah, it works really well alongside it. Yeah,
I like that.
I love it. I love it.
So all the nutrient, the supplements I've been taking have been, I mean, it's been amazing. And I think I just feel so much healthier, like having those alongside eating better. Just, I think it's made me feel better in myself, as well as obviously the anxiety change, which was just, as I say, it was just, I mean, all life-changing really for me. And I think I hadn't really noticed that it was perimenopausal. I think it had been creeping up on me for about 6 months. And then I just think it suddenly got to a point where I was like, you know what, this is just really, really bad. And I need to do something now. Yeah. I've got to the point where I have to do something. Someone's just asked, can they take creatine if they're not exercising? Yes,
you absolutely can. And often you'll get on, and I don't think we've put it on, there's a loading phase with creatine of taking 1 teaspoon twice a day, but I would ignore that if you're not exercising. Just 1 teaspoon a day will be plenty. But yes, most definitely, most definitely. It works very well with it. Yes, with you it was that culmination of the supplements on the one side and the nutrition on the other. And none of them, as you know, none of them are to replace anything as such. Now I'm just looking. Oh, somebody's talking about the Amino Slim powder. That's probably one for another conversation. That's probably one for another conversation.
Because I haven't taken that either.
We
didn't
need you to take that. We weren't looking at that. The hemoglobin iron, maybe you'll give a mention of that one. That's a different company. We don't do it in Strong Nutrients. It's a company called Aduco Health do a lovely, it's a very natural form of iron, and it's an organic form of iron. So
yeah,
it's
I can
not
put
like,
it in the caption.
brilliant.
If I can save this, which I'm now realizing that I actually don't know how to save it.
Apparently it happens at the end.
That's what I'm hoping, because there's so
Apparently it
much
happens at
useful
the end.
information in here that I want to be able to save it. So I'm fingers crossed. And I should have said as well that I've got a discount code that gives 12% off until Sunday on all the strong nutrients. So I'll put that in this caption when I manage to save it. Someone's just said they love Amino Slim. Oh, and someone's put that, Lou has put there what the hemoglobin iron is. And I have to say, I've got my teenage daughter, I'm trying to make her take that as well, because I think that she's quite low iron too.
Yeah.
And it's iron, low iron, something I've struggled with for years. So I'm very happy to be taking it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think if you need these things, it makes such a difference. It really, really does. And obviously, as I said, the little tips to let you know if you need them. Now, these aren't conclusive, but they do help. From the iron point of view, I find if you do start getting lightheaded from sitting to standing, it is a sign that you are likely to be. The calcium, that casein protein that we mentioned there, the protein powder, is lovely and rich in calcium naturally. It's the protein you'd normally get in cheese or yogurt, and that is brilliant. Yes, can you help with someone who have vegan diets? Now that's the question. Well, the beauty of that's where you really need to think and consider with nutrition. I do help people with vegan diets. I think it's worth another conversation, that one, because there's a lot of questions on that one. But you can get great supplements, just calcium, magnesium supplements to help make up for what you might be lacking in the actual food itself on the dairy side of it. Protein, the casein is not vegan, it is vegetarian. So you would just be looking for a good maybe pea protein or hemp protein to get the extra protein in. And then iron, you won't be going to hemoglobin because it's not vegetarian or vegan. It's just the fastest way I know to get the iron levels in a natural form that's super mild, that doesn't seem to have any of the side effects of the other irons and just gets the iron levels up fast. But if you're looking for vegan sources, then you are going back to the sort of ferrous type ones, anything with FERR in it.
Which I have had for many, many years. So I'm very used to the ferrous sulfates, but obviously they come with their own joyful things like constipation.
Yes,
other
slightly
things
less
like,
easy to utilize.
Yeah.
Chlorophyll's a good one. Chlorophyll is a good one. So that's the green of the leaf. That can be helpful for vegetarians and vegans. Yeah, but it's, to me, the absolute best. And I'm obviously appreciate if someone's vegan and they may not want to do it, but the absolute best for me is that hemoglobin, just to get the iron levels up quickly. I found that's the easiest.
No, I've been really pleased with that, because it is a struggle to get iron if you don't eat red meat. So I was vegetarian for over 20 years. Then I discovered I was lactose intolerant. So obviously I've pulled dairy out of my diet, although I do have lactose free, and I use, oat milk and soya milk and all the rest of it. So I do have those. And I do now eat chicken and fish, so I can't claim to be vegetarian. But it is, I guess people would say, it is a restricted diet. It works for me, but I do recognise the shortcomings in that, and the fact that it means that I need to be more careful. I need to make sure I'm getting hemoglobin. Like that person said, I could never go back to red meat. So for me, that's a non-starter.
Yeah, and I can appreciate that. And they're the things, and there's other things ultimately to look for, but that's sort of a bit of an overview there. In your case, these were very much the key ones. Iron was too low, calcium was a bit low. You're getting the calcium in the casein protein there, which is great. Yeah, people can get calcium magnesium supplements. The magnesium was likely too low. And then the B5, just to get your adrenals were being a bit pummeled, I suspect. And that whole combination was just a perfect storm.
I remember you said something like, it was really useful. It was about the adrenals. It was about them being like a frayed wire or something. Do you remember saying that? I'm trying to remember what that analogy was.
Well, I'm not, I mean, there's a, yeah, I'm there. I'm not sure what exactly I would have said to you.
No. Sorry, it was like way back in March.
Don't you worry. Well, the adrenal glands really are, they're designed, they do so many things, and they also produce 40% of our steroid hormones, our estrogen, our progesterone, our testosterone, and that's almost half half of them. And when we get into perimenopause, they're all dropping. If our adrenal glands have been beaten up and pummeled over the years, and in your case, there probably was like a freight wire where it was just on edge, then it's going to have a knock-on effect on all the perimenopausal symptoms. A really fascinating fact, which I hadn't appreciated until recently, was the degree that our bodies use our progesterone to help create cortisol. So stress, where we're producing cortisol, it can deplete progesterone, which is already possibly depleting for some in the perimenopause period. So your menopausal symptoms could be a lot worse when you're under stress. So everything that helps support those adrenal glands and helps them produce their bit, obviously the ovaries and the likes produce the others, but that just keeps it up, will help this period be a lot more level and a lot calmer. But yes, adrenals can, honestly, for so many, we tend to be doing way more in our 30s, 40s and 50s than we would have in our 20s, so to speak, on every turn. You've got the menopause and perimenopause going on the other side of things. The adrenals just get, I mean, I'm using a very exactly very non-scientific word. They get pummeled, they get beaten up, and they're a bit of on a thread. So everything you can do to support them will have a knock-on effect with so much in the body, from sleep to how you're feeling, your mood, irritability isn't calming that down, right down to even energy levels.
So interesting, because I'd never even heard of any of this before we started working together, and honestly I think it's probably it's the thing that made the biggest difference, that chill pill. And the magnesium, I guess, and the iron. So it's like, it is the whole mix of everything, but it did make the difference.
I'm so glad. Brilliant.
Okay.
I really appreciate you sharing it, though. I do mean that, I really do.
No, thank you for all your help, because it has been life-changing. I'm really glad I could share it with everyone. I know the first time I shared it, I had such a good reaction. So yeah, so it's been really good to talk to you, to hopefully like get the message out to more people. You know, you don't have to struggle. There are things that you can do that can help, and hopefully like the tips in this will really help people.
Yes, I hope so.
Okay. I think I guess I pressed that cross in the right hand corner.
Good luck with this. I can say goodbye and leave you to save it. Thank you, Maria.
Thank you. Thanks so much, Zana. Thanks to everybody that's joined as well. Really good to see you all. Okay.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.